This is an F major 7 first inversion drop-2 chord voicing on the top 4 strings of the guitar. This is a G dominant 7 drop-2 voicing on those same 4 strings, an F major 7 drop-2 root voicing on those same strings, an E minor 7 drop-2 root voicing on those same strings. Where do we go from there? A D minor 7 shell chord rooted on the 5th string, so we're on the 4 middle strings. C major 7 root voicing drop-2. B half diminished B minor 7 flat 5 drop-2, a series of tenths to a G dominant 7th first inversion drop-2 on the 4 top strings, back to our root voicing dominant 7th drop-2, and back to chord number 1, our F major 7 first inversion. That's a really interesting chord. Now, if you compare that to that, very different feel between those two chords, but they're both F major 7. Technically, this is an inversion of an F major 7, but it's a specific inversion. And it is not just an arbitrary set of notes that just happen to be the same 4 notes, F, A, C, E. Easy to keep track of F, A, C, E. So I like to use that as the starting point for understanding drop-2 voicings. And that's what this video is covering, the subject of drop-2 voicings, how they happen, how they're structured, and kind of like a little bit of like why they are structured that way. When you move around the fretboard, when you move around through any piece of music and you want to do more than just play the same version of each chord every time you play, you really want to get how these chords work, how all of these voicings extend from the basic chord structure that you may already know. So for instance, how would you play an F major 7th chord? Would you go for this voicing? Would you go for that one? Would you go for that one first? Which one would you go for? Would you go for this one? So an F major 7 chord has the notes F, A, C, E. F, A, C, E. Now if we take it from here, the middle of the fingerboard, and we put F on the 8th fret, and then we've got A on the 7th fret, and C on the 5th fret, and E on the 5th fret, we have our root voicing in its simplest form, root, 3rd, 5th, 7th. And we can do that in the open position also and get the exact same set of notes. And we can do it here, F, A, C, E, starting from the 13th fret. So, you know, we have a lot of options, I guess, if we want to play an F major 7th chord. But this voicing here, this is not F, A, C, E, right? This is F, C, E, A, F, C, E, A. Now, how does it get that way? What about this one? Oh, that's the same again. F, C, E, A, F, C, E, A, F, C, E, A. It's not F, A, C, E, so it's not a standard root voicing. F, C is a 5th, F, G, A, B, C. So we could say that it's a root 5 chord. It goes from the root to the 5th, then to the 7th, then to the 3rd. And we could say that we're playing it that way because it just happens to line up. Those are the notes of an F major 7th chord. This version of the chord and this version of the chord have different characters. But yet there are other ways to group those notes together. How many chords do you know? How many different types of chords do you know? And not just how many chords do you know, but how do you know them? Do you know these chords because of the way your hand is shaped when you play them? And the sound you associate with those chords? And yeah, you know, you need that. You need to have that. But it helps to know the structure of the chords in the same way that you understand words that you use every day, the meanings of words that you use every day.
Some of these words have more than one meaning. And then the way you spell those words. All of those things contribute to your understanding of your spoken language. For music to be a spoken language, don't we want to know how we spell things? Don't we want to know how many ways we can say something? So like a word that has multiple meanings, this chord here, this is a G major 7th chord, has multiple expressions. Here's another G major 7th chord. Here's another G major 7th chord and another G major 7th chord. And if I combine that with a melody, I'm telling a story. I'm not just playing a bunch of chords that just happen to be familiar, that I can just sort of happen to get if I know what chord I'm supposed to play. I can do a little bit more. I can say a little bit more. G major 7, G major 7, G major 7, G major 7, G minor 7, G minor 7, E half diminished, E half diminished. These two are the same. This is the same chord. This is the same chord, but a different character. And so I'm combining the fact that I know that these two chords are the same and that I know, therefore, that I can go between them and get some kind of effect, some kind of melodic, harmonic idea. So I go between these chord voicings of this one chord, G major 7. I'm just really drilling it in that this is a G major 7, G major 7, G major 7, G major 7. The logic behind these positions is not something that it takes a virtuoso to understand. What is the logic, the structure, identifiable, recognizable, memorable structure that puts this chord here, this chord here, this chord here, etc.? Where does that come from? If I want all of the possible expressions of that chord, how am I going to process that information so that I know for sure where each of those chords is? And there is a logic to that, and that logic comes from understanding the process, understanding the way these chords are built, and the terminology behind the interval structure of each of these chords. The process is this. We take any standard chord voicing, root 3rd, 5th, 7th. It's inversions, 3rd, 5th, 7th root, that's the first inversion. 5th, 7th root 3rd, that's the second inversion. 7th root 3rd, 5th, that's the third inversion. We take each of these voicings, root voicing, first inversion, second inversion, third inversion. And then we take the second note from the top. We count down from the top. The high note is number 1, the 7th of the chord. The 5th of the chord is note number 2. The 3rd of the chord is note number 3. And the root is note number 4. But we take the second note from the top and we move that note to the bottom. And we do this with all of those chords. Major 7ths, minor 7ths, dominant 7ths, minor 7 flat 5s, all get this treatment to arrive at the 4 chords that we're playing on the top 4 strings of the guitar. These major 7th chords, these dominant 7th chords, the minor 7 flat 5s, the minor 7ths, all 4 basic chord types can be drop-2 chords. Now, it's a little bit intricate, it's a little bit complicated to go through this process and to understand how it works so that you can really get a picture of the chords you're playing. It's a little complicated, so I've prepared some graphics that bring these ideas out for you, and hopefully this will make things as clear as possible so that you can really make full use of the drop-2 chord concept. I'd like to thank everybody who's subscribed. If you haven't subscribed, please do. Please let me know what you think in the comments below. And now, on with the show.
This is an F major 7 first inversion drop-2 chord. On the 4 top strings of the guitar. But what does that mean? Drop-2 is a way of organizing chord forms. A particular method of inverting chords, in this case, 7th chords. These major 7th chords form a symmetrical pattern. There are 4 drop-2 7th chord voicings in all: a root voicing, first inversion, second inversion, and third inversion forms. Here are the fingerings for all of them. Like many patterns on the guitar fretboard, the symmetry is twofold. Here we'll go from the F major 7, the 4 chord in the key of C, to the C major 7, the tonic chord. Notice how the symmetry is inverted. The first inversion was at the center before. Now it's moved to the edges. Also, the root form and the second inversion have switched sides, and the third inversion, which was at the edges, is now central. Now we'll go from major 7ths to minor 7ths. Again, the first inversion is placed at the center to reveal the overall symmetry of the voicings. Let's go from A minor to E minor. And once again, the symmetry is twofold. Now the third inversion moves to the center as the first inversion moves out to the sides. And back to A minor 7th. And here are the minor 7th fingerings. We've gone from major 7th to minor 7th drop-2 forms, but there are 2 more types of diatonic 7th chords to consider. Let's look at the dominant 7th and the minor 7 flat 5 chord and see what happens to the symmetry then. The 4 dominant 7th chords don't appear to have a symmetrical pattern on the fretboard. But symmetry is found in the relationship between the dominant 7th and the half-diminished chord. And the fingerings. We've looked at 4 different types of chords: major 7th, minor 7th, dominant 7th, and minor 7 flat 5, also known as half diminished.
16 different chord shapes in all, each with a unique character. To really understand the structure and function of all these chords, it helps to understand their architecture and how that architecture comes into being. This video began with an F major 7th first inversion drop-2 voicing. F major 7th happens to fit nicely into the spaces of the staff. F, A, C, E. We'll take the F, the root, and move it to the top. This is our first inversion. Now we take the first inversion's low note and move it to the top. This is our second inversion. We take the low note of the second inversion and move it to the top. This is our third inversion. This set of basic chord voicings is raw material for the drop-2. The drop-2 approach is a bit different from conventional inversions. Chord degrees are numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, highest to lowest. The second note down in all 4 voicings is moved to the bottom. We dropped the 2. Notice now how the designation of each chord has changed. What was the root voicing has become the second inversion. What was the first inversion has become the third inversion. The second inversion is now the root voice, and the third inversion is now the first inversion. So let's unshuffle these. Now the drop-2 voicings are organized root voicing, first inversion, second inversion, and third inversion from left to right. 4 F major 7th chords, each with a different low note, and each with a unique interval structure. And as convoluted as this process may seem, these chord forms still express diatonic symmetry on the fretboard. While we've been using F major 7th as an example, we're going to be more concerned with the interval relationships of the chord degrees than we are with specific note names. Looking at each chord form from its low note going up, notice how the root voicing and the first inversion both begin with a perfect fifth, while the second inversion and the third inversion both begin with a perfect fourth. The first and second inversions are both topped by a perfect fifth, with a perfect fourth on the top of the root voice and the third inversion. The middle interval in these voicings consists of 2 major thirds, a minor third, and inside the first inversion, a half step. The 4 minor 7 drop-2 forms have the same upper and lower interval structure as the major 7ths. Perfect fifths at the bottom of the root voice and first inversion, perfect fourths at the bottom of the second and third inversions, perfect fifths atop the first and second inversions, perfect fourths atop the root voice and third inversion. 2 minor thirds in the middle, 1 major third, and a whole step on the first inversion. The interval structure of the dominant sevenths differs only slightly from the major and minor. The root voice begins with a perfect fifth, but the first inversion begins with a diminished fifth. The second inversion begins with a perfect fourth, but the third inversion begins with an augmented fourth, or tritone. A perfect fifth and diminished fifth atop the first and second inversions, and a perfect fourth and augmented fourth atop the third inversion and root voice, respectively. In the middle, 2 minor thirds, 1 major third, and again we find a whole step in the middle of the first inversion. Finally, the half-diminished chords begin with a diminished fifth on the root voicing, a perfect fifth on the first inversion, an augmented fourth on the second inversion, and a perfect fourth on the third. At the top of these chords, the root voice has a perfect fourth, while the third inversion has an augmented fourth, a perfect fifth on the second inversion, and a diminished fifth on the first. 2 minor thirds in the middle, along with 1 major third, and a whole step in the middle of the first inversion. Now let's have a look at all the voicings together. Throughout this video, the chord forms have been represented in a graphic style intended to emphasize their geometric symmetry. This symmetry is not just aesthetic, but also structural. There's an interval symmetry within a diatonic key. That symmetry is expressed in many ways. Within the major and minor 7th groups, the root voicing and second inversion drop-2 chords are connected through rotational symmetry. That same pair of voicings are not connected within the dominant or within the half-diminished groups, but between them. So the dominant 7th root voicing is paired with the second inversion half-diminished, and the root voice half-diminished chord is paired with the second inversion dominant.
The first and third inversions of each stand alone in the major and minor seventh groups, but these two shapes pair up with their counterparts between the dominant and half-diminished forms. Get to know these chord forms by means of their interval structure and their geometry.